Hey guys, how's it going? Kripparrian here. Today I want to give you guys the card review of the cards right before the big card dump. So the next card review coming up tomorrow is going to have a whole lot of cards, but in my opinion, this video might be just the most important set of cards in the entire expansion. So it is not one to miss. There's only 8 cards, but half of them are legendaries, but it's not even the legendaries that are significant. Let's just, warm us up with some Void Analyst. Void Analyst, 2 mana, 2/2 demon. Death Rattle gives the demons in your hand +1/+1. Is this good? It's not really that great. It's not that special, but we do believe that because of the Warlock legendary spell that draws you 3 cards for 1 mana, we will be seeing some kind of Zoolock, and this might fit into that quite well. Who knows? So it might be a playable card, even though it looks kind of bad, but, whatever. And then we have Iam Bombur. It's a 5 for a 5/5, shuffles a bomb in your opponent's deck, deals 5, and it's basically the It's the Iron Juggernaut, I think it is, from way back in Goblin vs. Gnomes. It's kind of worse version of it, but it's whatever. I could call this kind of an arena card. There are some deck shuffling synergies, however, that we reviewed in the last Krip card review video. A card that doubles up cards that insert things into your deck, the Elic. So, while the Bomber alone is certainly not worth comboing just with that card, there are some other shuffling synergies right now in the upcoming Boomsday expansion, and there might be a lot more. The card dump usually features mid-end cards, and a lot of them might have synergies like these. So, who knows? Then we have Luna's Pocket Galaxy, the Mage legendary spell. It's a 7 mana spell, and change the cost of minions in your deck to 1. So basically, if you have any kind of combo that is mana intensive, if you hit any number of those cards, you're going to be in good shape. So why is that, why is that really powerful? Well, it's really powerful because Mage has a lot of cards that allow you to manipulate and force draw heavy spells and, create new ones. So if all you're running is Luna's Pocket Galaxy in terms of spells, and if you have like 2 Ravens, you can basically guarantee that you have this. Now, that's probably not a viable deck, so you probably need to tweak that around a little bit, but this just gives you an idea of why this card is stronger than just a 1 of random, I hope to draw this before my other combo cards. It's not that. Mage has a lot of spell support cards. You can also potentially generate this from a card like Primordial Glyph. It's not very likely, but if we take a look at the new 6 mana Discover a Spell over 5 minion coming up in the Boomsday expansion, well, Mage doesn't have that many cards over 7. Probably Luna's Pocket Galaxy is in the 50% range for showing up. That's not bad at all, right? So, and again, that's a card that is a minion that generates a spell, so it has further synergy with spell discovery, Ravens, and all that. It is a lot better than it looks, and it looks pretty good. Again, though, it is a completely new deck, so anytime we have completely new decks rising up in the meta, a lot of them fall. So even though it's really good, it might not get its time to shine immediately, but I think it's going to get its day at some point. The Warlock minion legendary Dr. Morgan is an 8 mana 5/5, so the stats are absolute garbage. And the Death Rattle swaps this with a minion from your deck. Now, these kind of swap effects and stuff, they're actually quite powerful. People look at this card and it's like, man, that's absolute garbage. And then, we just forgot about the fact that we have 6 mana 2/2s that get a demon from your deck. I understand, those cards are a bit more flexible with combo pieces, but, the demon thing can be a plus or it can be a minus. Dr. Morgan, if you can shuffle additional copies of Dr. Morgan, you literally have minions on the board that will never die, potentially. So, yeah, it's not exactly the same. It certainly looks rather weak, but I would not write this card off, and I'm glad to be saying that about a lot of the cards in the upcoming expansion. Now, the next card here, I think, is the most interesting one that we've seen. It's Galvanized Er. It's a 2 mana 1/2 mech, and it reduces the cost of mechs in your hand by 1. So this card is like really busted. if you have any doubt, we know that Elemental Shaman was like a deck. Didn't live that long, but it was a deck. And other decks have featured a card called Fire Plume Harbinger. And it's a 2-mana 1/1, basically the same thing, but it's for elementals. So I don't know why they're doing this. Typically, class cards are supposed to be marginally better than neutral options. That's why you're supposed to use class cards when you play the game and not neutral cards. So Galvanizer is literal power creep over a previously played class card. That should tell you a lot, because every class is going to look at the Galvanizer and think about running mechs. It's not just, can Shaman play elementals? It's, can any class play enough mechs to make this card work? Yes, the answer is yes. A lot of classes are going to be able to make this card work. It being neutral and it being better than the Harbinger is just standalone, extremely high power level. The other part is even the smaller mechs are very strong because of the new magnetic effect. So the magnetic effect allows you to attach a mech that you're playing to one in play, and it gets to attack right away. So any mech, just a mech on the board, gives you charge potential. So it being a mech rather than any other minion type in the game right now is also really good. Okay. Now, here's where we get into the really crazy stuff. This card buffs the absolute RNGesus out of MECHA'THUN. Okay. I reviewed MECHA'THUN in the last card review video. MECHA'THUN is a hilarious win condition that we were like, that's never going to happen. Well, suddenly, it's gonna happen. Okay, this is going to happen. It's not like, oh, maybe this is gonna work, maybe not. Oh, lol, it should be fun to play around with it. MECHA'THUN is going to be a 100% viable deck. And I'll give you just a few examples. So if you're running Galvanizer, you no longer need to run Innervate in Druid, and you can just run a mech shell in Druid. You can basically play a tempo mech Druid with a hell of a lot of draw. And if you lose the tempo game against a control deck, which, happens a decent bit of the time, you one-shot kill them with a discounted MECHA'THUN and naturalize on your MECHA'THUN when you're out of cards in your deck and in your hand. But because you're playing a tempo deck, the nature of that deck makes it easy to actually dish out your hand. So the main constriction with Cthulhu is actually playing a deck that can last long enough to deck itself while also dumping your hand, because the decks that are able to go the distance typically have a lot of control cards. And if you've played control decks, even when you're about to lose, you're sitting on 3, 4, 7, 8 mana cards in your hand. Now, Druid gets around that a little bit, but because of this card, it gets around that a lot more easily than previously possible. So MECHA'THUN Druid, I would wager, would be a very strong deck regardless of what happens in the meta, just because of Galvanizer. Just to give you guys one example of why Galvanizer is significant. But it's actually more significant than that. Right now, and this was mentioned by a Reddit user in the Galvanizers, a few Reddit users, but in Warlock, it is magnificent. And let me tell you why. So Warlock is capable of filling the quota of getting through your deck just through its hero power. So you don't actually need to run card draw cards in Warlock. Warlock currently has some of possibly the best, I say possibly because Druid is in contention for the best, possibly the best control tools out of all the classes. So many taunts, so many minion cheating abilities. It's just absolutely ridiculous. We have decks like Q-Block, which have been nerfed into oblivion, still keeping up with tier 1 decks. Even though they don't really have that many control cards, they can win control games against control decks. Like, that's the level that Warlock is operating right now. And there's no standard rotation in this expansion. Warlock is keeping all of those tools it previously had moving forward. So Warlock's going to be a great control class. So if you're playing Warlock, you can play Galvanizer and you can play MECHA'THUN. It's really easy to get rid of all the cards through your deck, and it's really easy to stay alive until the very, very late game. Now, the main issue with that is that it's difficult to ultimately, when you're running out of cards, when all of that has, happened, it's difficult to drop your hand immediately when you're playing a control Warlock. But the fact that Galvanizer exists lets you play Galvanizer into Galvanizer. And then the next turn, trust me, it's pretty easy to be on your next turn at that point. This is with MECHA'THUN in hand. So you have an 8 mana MECHA'THUN. So you have an 8 mana MECHA'THUN. You can play MECHA'THUN for 8 mana, and then you can play Blood Bloom for 2 mana, and then you can Cataclysm your board and your hand. It's literally an endgame finisher combo. You can play the slowest control warlock ever, just put those exact cards in your deck. Trust me, it's really easy to do. And all you have to do is make it to the late game to where you don't have any cards left in your deck. I've played a lot of control warlock. That's not that hard to do. But wait, it gets better. It gets better because all of the cards in that combo and most of the cards that are control warlock cards are even. You can actually probably play even control warlock and have this combo at the end. And playing an even warlock allows you to get through your deck so much faster than you would otherwise. So again, we're talking about another potentially tier 2, potentially tier 1 deck enabled through OTK MECHA'THUN combo just because of Galvanizer. That's how completely ridiculous Galvanizer is. Now, I know Galvanizer is largely a support card, but from what we've seen, it is really up there, possibly at the very top of the most impactful cards in the entire Boomsday Project expansion. And a card like this, if it is really the source of the problem, I don't know how they're going to nerf it, because it's, if you make it a 1/1, it still satisfies all of those purposes. So we'll have to see. We also have the Shaman legendary spell, the Stormbringer. The Stormbringer transforms your minions into legendary ones. And if you've played, Dungeon Run, there's like the Wish or whatever that basically fills your board with legendary minions and full heals you for 10. You'd know just how powerful that is. Even in Dungeon Run, where some of the AI has like some of the craziest, unfairest decks you've ever seen, that's a game-winning effect there. Now, in Constructed, some people might be running, like super, super board removal effects, but maybe not. I feel like the Stormbringer is just the late game push, late game finish for Shaman, and there is some spell searching, so you could actually play a small tempo-based, Shaman deck and end up searching for this card for it to be your ultimate win condition. The Stormbringer, I imagine, will see quite a lot of play just because it has a lot of support and it's just very strong of an effect. We have another legendary. It's a neutral one. It's a 5 mana 4/4, and the battle cry gets 5 different secrets from your deck. So it's nothing too crazy. Obviously, if you actually have 5 different secrets from your deck and you get like crazy value, it's like just super, super good. And, you can be happy that you did that and stuff. But I don't think it's that good as just a standalone card, largely because it's a legendary and the secrets are drawn. They're not like in play. So it's not quite like Dr. Six from, Paladin way back when. And because it's a legendary, you only have one of. So before, when we had super synergy from secrets, you could play 2 of one card, and that would let you have some consistency. It would, the games you wouldn't get the secret synergy, you'd have a big disadvantage, but the games that you would get it, you have a big advantage. With a card like this, that advantage is halved. It's halved because it's legendary minion. You can't play 2 of them. So it's probably not that good in a standalone, just, play a bunch of secrets type of deck, because secrets are still relatively weak. And until we have more follow-up secret mechanics, this is probably just not good enough. But where it will see quite a lot of play is if there's like Spell Hunter or some kind of Control Hunter, because it is a 5 mana beast. Deathstalker Rexar will be zombie-beasting it up with Subject 9, and most of those decks run at least a few secrets, so it will be a decent option. You will see this card played very likely. It'll just be jumbled up through a zombie-beast effect with some other whatever low-budget beast. So that's kind of cool, and I appreciate this card, but you're going to be probably quite sad to open it up in your pack. But again, if we get considerable secret synergy through other means that we've yet to see revealed, that can change in an instant. Prismatic Lens, last card for the day, as a Paladin card draw effect. You draw 2 cards. You get 1 minion and you get 1 spell. So it's not really RNG draw, and this makes it very interesting. What makes it more interesting is you swap the costs. So if you're playing low-cost spells and high-cost minions, you if you want, you can get an accelerant to your larger minions. So let's just pretend here that on one hand we have like, I don't know, a 10 mana super crazy strong old god minion, whatever. Seems good, right? Yeah, seems pretty good. And then on the other hand, we have like a 1 mana secret. So you draw both of those. The secret is unplayable, but it's no longer in your deck. So you're not going to be drawing a secret as your draw for the turn moving forward, which is probably a good thing. And well, you have a 10 mana card that's now a 1 mana card. And you also drew that as well. So you get card advantage, you get push, you get combo. This is a very high power level card. You have to design a whole new deck around it, but I don't think that's too difficult. It'll involve you playing many small spells, decent amount of card draw, and mostly, if not exclusively, large minions. I think that's possible. And I think in a deck that just replicates that, even without the extremes, it's still possibly a good enough card to be played. This is a very, very good card. So that's it. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you're ready to praise the almighty MECHA'THUN, as probably most of us will have to eventually. And I'll see you guys tomorrow.